All right, well, we'll call this week 5 because Ohio State didn't get to play last week against Maryland. They had to cancel. And Ohio State, although they were healthy, they didn't get to play. So we'll call this the week 5 preview with Faker Urban. Welcome back on.
Thank you. I think we should call this week 4.5.
Week 4.5. Okay, that'll do. So I did get an email just now. I was about to tell you, but decided to wait until I hit record. Families are no longer allowed at Ohio State athletic competitions or venues. That includes football. That's for 28 days, but they said they will revisit the Team Up North rivalry game about whether or not families can go there. I mean, we're seeing a spike in cases. There's a 10 p.m. curfew. Thoughts on where we're at right now in the state of Ohio in regards to college football?
Well, it's not a good thing. It's really bad. But, there's one exception about family members being allowed to come to these games or not being allowed, and that's me. My son-in-law, Corey, is the receivers coach. I'm a family member. Guess who comes in?
Well, you're working.
Because we're doing big new kickoff. Yeah, see? So it's kind of neat for me. Now, all the other parents are probably a little upset, but I recruited half of them anyway, to come to Ohio State, so hopefully they don't hate me too much. But the new kids, the freshmen and the sophomore, their parents probably hate me. But I'll be there, and if you'd like me to, I'll take pictures and do all kinds of stuff for all you family members out there listening.
Okay, well,
I can yell, "Go Johnny," or "Nice run, good tackle," and I can then send people messages that way.
All right. Well, we'll definitely tune into your Twitter and see what you're up to. But we can break down the games that were able to be played. The Big Ten looks like a mess right now for some programs. Thoughts on how Penn State is doing, Michigan? Do you feel those coaches, James Franklin, Jim Harbaugh, should be worried about the future of their career with that program?
Well, I hope both of them stay for a long, long time. I want to continue to sadden Harbaugh and the people up at that state up north for as long as we can. And, I'm no longer the coach, but, Ryan Day can do that now, and our players and all that. So, and I can sadden them with my tweets, right? So, I think that they ought to sign Harbaugh to a lifetime contract. It's obvious the university's president has no clue about football. He wants to make sure that Harbaugh's boys are graduated, and that's admirable. He wants to make sure that they're upstanding members of the community, which is admirable. And he's really checking those boxes. As a football coach, since the president doesn't know how crappy they are on the football field, let's keep it going. So let's get this president to have a lifetime contract up there. And then he can, before he retires or they fire him or they decide to do what they want to do to Michigan's governor up there, with those militia people, let's get them all signed to lifetime contracts, and we can keep on beating them year after year after year. That's problem one. Now, Penn State, right?
Mm-hmm.
James Franklin, I think, sold the president of the university a new car because James Franklin talks a really good game, and he tries to do that. He one time tried to sell me a car right before we were doing a game there, a few years ago, the year that we came back from behind. A lot of people don't know this story, but we were down so many points at the half 2 years ago. That's because I was stunned, because Franklin, I think, put me behind the wheel of a Buick right before the game started, and I didn't know what I was saying. I thought I said good luck, and he sold me this whole thing with power steering, power brakes, power roof, power everything. I didn't know what the hell was happening. By the time I finally got my wits together, we were down by a couple scores. It's in the fourth quarter when finally we had that nice comeback. That was crazy. Then Victor caught a pass finally, and then KJ Hill came in, and so that's how that game ended. So now you know the rest of the story when it comes to that. But their fans are really upset, and I think it's great. And James Franklin, you follow him on Twitter?
I do follow him on Twitter.
Every Sunday, 6 days before they play, he writes the opponent, and that's all he talks about. So the first game of the year, the Sunday before it, he writes Indiana, until, he hit the 280 characters. And so he was right, because Indiana won the game. The day afterwards, he writes Ohio State a million times. Guess who won? Ohio State. He did it the same week, the next opponent, the next opponent. So this week he wrote Iowa. So he's already predicted. He's 4-0 this year in his predictions that they're going to lose. And so this weekend he's picking Iowa, apparently to beat his own team. So go James Franklin.
It's a funny way to dissect that. Now, looking at Indiana, who's on a roll, Ohio State wasn't able to continue with the momentum they were building when Maryland had to cancel the game on them. But Indiana is rolling. What are you seeing from them that you may want to brace yourself for in this matchup against Ohio State?
Well, I think they're going to score some points on Saturday. There's no question about it. But they have not faced an offense like ours this whole year. So spoiler alert, are you ready? We're going to score a lot more points than them. Okay? I think we could easily double their score. I could see it being like a 47-20 game, 47-24. It's going to be crazy. And, Fox is doing the game, and Fox likes to have very, very long commercial breaks. And normally the commercial breaks.
You're doing the game. Don't forget, you will have to be there.
Since I'm in the stadium, because the fans and the parents are not, I will be putting on the Brutus hat. I will be dotting the I. I'm going to be doing everything out there. And I'll be sending messages to the parents. Hey, your son just had a very, very nice run, in case you're not watching. So I'll be doing all these things and commenting, at halftime and pregame and postgame maybe, and doing all this stuff. But I don't think they defensively will be able to stop us. I think we're going to have our first turnover of the year. I hate to say this. I don't want to say anything
You think Fields is going to get picked off?
Well, he might fumble the ball.
I don't think Fields will get an interception this year. I really don't. Not in the regular season.
I don't mean to sound like I'm a meteorologist, but I think we're going to get a little rain Saturday.
They've done this before. They've prepared. They put water on the football, and they play with a wet ball.
Well, I have a funny story about Luke Fickell and a wet ball, but that's a different story for a different day. But anyway, the problem is this. I think we're going to have a turnover. They're good at forcing turnovers. I think a wet football, a lot of things are going to play into this. So I'm not wishing for this, but I'm thinking it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's an interception, but it could be a fumble or something like that. So I will probably do my normal tweet where I will write, I am displeased, or turnovers displease me. And I'll be all sad about it. But now they're saying it's a 20% chance of rain. But anyway, what I'm thinking, though, is it could be bad. And Indiana's got a pretty good defense, but they're not used to stopping a quarterback like Justin Fields. Okay? They've got, a pretty good defensive line, but we've got some pretty good receivers, and we've got some pretty good offensive linemen. And I think we're going to be able to do pretty well. So we start with the pass, opens up the run game, good things are going to happen.
Yeah, they turned the ball over 4 times on Michigan State. Granted, Michigan State isn't doing that great this year. They blew them out. They didn't get any points on the board against Indiana. But I do think that it comes down to Ohio State not making the mistakes, because Indiana knows how to optimize on that. So if there's anything that goes wrong, I do think it would be at the fault of Ohio State, and then Indiana just taking advantage of that. But that's the Big Ten East battle. Let's take it on over to the West. An undefeated matchup between Wisconsin and Northwestern. Expectations for that one?
Yeah, I just fell asleep hearing Wisconsin and Northwestern. Okay,
they're undefeated. Wisconsin's only played 2 games, but it could be a good matchup.
Paul Chryst, the Wisconsin coach, is not exactly the most personable fellow in the world. Okay, he puts a lot of people to sleep. I mean, I've seen professional soccer games that are a lot more exciting than hearing Paul Chryst. I hate to sound like that. So, and then you've got Pat Fitzgerald, the Northwestern coach, right? And so you've got a bunch of, crap going at it against each other. And we've beaten them both in the Big Ten championship games, right, over the years. 59-0. We annihilated Northwestern a couple years ago. OG, we beat Wisconsin too in between, before that. So it doesn't matter who wins the West, okay? But, as long as Wisconsin can stay healthy and they don't have another COVID thing going, they should be playing us again in Indianapolis next month. But Northwestern, they're pretty boring too. And so I don't really think that it matters. I think that they're going to, win like 9-7 or something like that in one of those games. And then after 3.5 hours, you're like, what the hell was I just doing? I'll never get that time back in my life. And I don't know. I just have no interest in that game.
We'll see how that one turns out. We'll definitely stay tuned to your Twitter and see what you're talking about from the desk of Big Noon Kickoff at Ohio Stadium. Thanks for joining me for another weekly preview.
You're welcome. Good to be here.